So if eligible voters go and register and vote for their opposition parties, they can vote for different opposition parties, it is possible to get the 50% plus one for a coalition opposition government.
Pieter, when we last spoke, I believe you said you think the most likely scenario is the ANC forming a coalition with the IFP. Do you still think that is the case, or do you think the multi-party charter today has much more oomph and optimism and much more potential than that scenario happening? What is your scenario for 2024? The ruling government?
Well, if you talk about the ruling government, of course, it depends how much support they're going to get. It depends on the percentage of their support. If they get to, say, 40%, then, of course, they will still try to form a coalition from their side. They will still try to form a coalition with the EFF, although it is quite clear that there are loud voices in the ANC who is not in approval of that. And if you look to political commentators, they agree. A coalition between the ANC and the EFF is not viable at this moment. We must also remember, it depends. If they get only 48%, then, of course, they can go into a coalition with smaller parties, whoever they're going to be at that stage. So that is one scenario. Referring to the IFP, I am of the opinion that the IFP is more committed to the charter than, for instance, the questions arises from questions in terms of the DA and the ANC. So it is a possibility, but I've already dealt with the issue that if a political party do not comply to the charter, what will happen? But I think there's a greater possibility of the ANC going into a coalition with the DA than with the IFP. And I'm talking on a national level now. But then, of course, there's also a third scenario, and that's also, as far as I'm concerned, a strong scenario for the ANC, and that is that Cyril Ramaphosa can come forward with an idea of a government of national unity. Government of national unity where he can say to his own supporters, we're not going into a coalition with a specific political party, but we have so many problems in South Africa that we must take hands. And we have now the responsibility to ensure that we all work together to solve these problems. In fact, he already made those sounds in the State of the Nation address, when he said, no, but we have a shared responsibility for where we are in South Africa now and where we have to fix South Africa. I responded to say, I do not take any responsibility for the fact where we are in South Africa at the moment. Yes, I will build South Africa and try to build South Africa. And I said we will give some proposals. At that stage, the energy crisis was quite high on the agenda. I did submit proposals. We even submitted a comprehensive economic recovery plan to the president in Parliament a couple of months ago to say this is the way we can save South Africa. So yes, the Freedom Front Plus is willing to build South Africa, but I'm not going to take any responsibility for the messes of the ANC. So Cyril can come and say, let's take different political parties, members of them, and you put them in the executive. And that is what actually happened in 1994 after the election. There was a government of national unity, although the government of national unity at that stage was more, can I say, part of the interim constitution, the 1993 constitution. But it didn't work. In 1997, F.W. de Klerk, who became one of deputy presidents after the 1994 election, he actually left the government, and his argument and his reason was that he has no influence. The ANC just continues the way they want to. So I think that Cyril Ramaphosa will surely try to form a government of national unity with different political parties. DA, IFP, ACDP, whoever the parties who are willing. I'm also on record that the Freedom Front Plus will not be part of any such government with the ANC. And the reason is quite clear, as I already mentioned, to say that you will not be able to ensure that your views and your principles will be respected in such a government of national unity, and F.W. de Klerk is proof of that.
Even if that means the alternative is an ANC-EFF coalition?
Well, if that is the matter, then they must continue. And then we as South Africans must say, it's not going to be the end of the world. We must put it very clearly. Yes, we are at the crossroads in 2024. But if things like that happens, then we must also say to each other, we will not give up. We will still continue and we will sort out the problems. And I want to repeat, 2024 is not going to be the last election. It will be difficult going forward, but I am of the opinion that we as South Africans, difficulties, yes, they were all, you go and look in the history of South Africa, there were always severe difficulties, but we have overcome them, and we will still overcome that.
There are some who are calling for a referendum that the ANC should be removed. A referendum, a national referendum, that if the majority vote yes, the ANC should be removed from power. Is there any? Is that a good idea? Because to my mind, the immediate question I have is, okay, you vote yes, but what are you going to replace them with? I mean, but go ahead.
Well, for me, there's no sense in such a referendum, and the reason is the best referendum you can have is an election. I mean, why will people vote different in a referendum when they have the opportunity to vote in an election? And besides that, there is no legislative framework where a result of a referendum is final and must be adhered to. Say, for instance, there is a referendum, the majority say the ANC must be removed, or say the president. Yes, okay, they will take note of that, but the Constitution determines that they were duly elected and they will still stay in government. So for me, that doesn't make sense at this stage. Referendums are there for specific issues, not to remove governments. The way you remove governments is by means of democratic elections. And we have an opportunity next year. So we must ensure that we use that opportunity to get rid of the ANC. And it is possible. And let me put it that forward to say why I say it is possible. Because quite a lot of people say, well, if you look at the members of the Charter at the moment, and you add up their support, it doesn't look very good as if they're going to get 50% or more. That is not the calculation we must look at only. That's one aspect, because at the end, that is what is going to be the final result. But from my view is that the members must do everything to first encourage supporters of the ANC to change their vote to vote for opposition parties. That's the first thing. The second thing, and of course that is the treasure of a potential coalition opposition government, that is the voters of South Africa, eligible voters. Eligible voters are not registered, or some of them, a larger percentage. There are about 20 to 25 million voters, eligible voters, who are either not registered or didn't vote in the last election. For instance, the ANC governs in the National Assembly with a 58% majority. But in 2019, they only received 27% of support from eligible voters. So if eligible voters go and register and vote for their opposition parties. They can vote for different opposition parties. It is possible to get the 50% plus one for a coalition opposition government. And that's my appeal to the electorate of South Africa. I said at the convention, the political parties took hands. We said to the electorate, we will work together to oust the ANC. But I appeal to the electorate, make our hands strong, because a political party is only as strong as the voters voted for that specific political party. Therefore, we must say that we as opposition political parties has formed partners in a charter, but we must also include part of that charter the eligible voters of South Africa. Then it is possible to get rid of the ANC government.
Pieter, I want to ask you this question. It seems to me nobody's really focusing on this, and it's really interesting. It's very fascinating. I don't know why, but the polling, recent polling this year, the previous year, that has been done, this question has nothing to do with Cape Independence. It's one of the questions in Cape Independence polling. And the question is, does South Africa belong equally to all who live in it? And the respondents, 88% of white people said yes. 80% of colored people said yes. 31% of black people said yes. So the majority of black people believe South Africa does not belong equally to all who live in it. And you consistently see the same pattern. And polling, what is your opinion of this? It's just, I don't know why people aren't talking more about this. Is this something you want to discuss?
Well, firstly, I didn't see the poll. I didn't see the composition and the formulation of the questions. One reason for that is that the majority of the blacks feel that they're still poor, they are not equal, and the whites are still the privileged, and they are still rich. Because you must remember that Thabo Mbeki in 1999, when he became president, started the division. He said we are still two countries, one black and poor, and one white and rich. So, as I said, I didn't see the poll and the analysis of that. So it can, and if you ask me for an explanation, I am of the opinion that the view from the blacks participated in the poll is because they feel they are still the poor people in South Africa and the white people are still the rich people.
Fascinating. So it's not a racist statement from their side. It's an economical sort of statement that they've been left behind.
Of course, there's no doubt about it. I mean, in my campaign since 2019 already, where I get to people and talk to them, and then when they recognize me, they say to me, "You are right. Black economic empowerment that only enhanced or only favored the black elite and the black politically connected. The real masses, the poor people, did not benefit from black economic empowerment or affirmative matter for that, affirmative action for that matter." So that's what they experience, and it's true. If you go and look in South Africa, the poorest of the poor and the majority of the poorest of the poor is black people. There are white people as well, but the majority is still black people.
Pieter, this has been super fascinating as always. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to leave our viewers with before we conclude?
Donald, no, from us, I thank you very much. I want to put emphasis again that we must take hands with the electorate, and I really appeal to the electorate. See that you are registered. It is much easier now. You can register online on the website of the Electoral Commission. So it's not that you have to go and take your ID document with you. You can register online. It makes it much easier. And if we say that we want to say South Africa, it's no use that there are political parties, and a political party on its own cannot say South Africa. We must take hands. We did take hands, but in the final situation, it is going to depend on the electorate. So I want to put that very clearly. Whether we're going to get rid of the ANC depends on the electorate. Please register and ensure you vote for an opposition party. You can vote for any opposition party. We must also, and I just want to put that clear, there's not going to be a new political party of a multi-party charter. We as political parties are still separate identities or entities with their own views and their own policies. And as I said, I believe in cooperation, but not in co-option. We will still keep our own views, our own principles, and people must vote for their specific parties to make their hands strong. I ask people, vote for the Freedom Front Plus if you believe in our principles and our views. Make our hands strong so that I can bring those principles and views in a coalition government. Some journalists ask me, but whose face is going to be on the presidential candidate's poster? Well, I said none, because there will not be a poster for a presidential candidate. So in the end, you vote for your political party, but ensure that you go and vote.
And what greater message can we have than that? One great final message. Thank you so much, Pieter. Baie dankie. Baie dankie is altyd vir jou tyd.
Dankie, Donald. Dit is altyd 'n voorreg om met jou te praat.